talking about professional life and home life, when you're in the office, obviously you're not talking about work 24/7, and you talk with colleagues, and sometimes comments or jokes can be made which may be conform to gender roles and such. Is there anything which you've experienced where you've dreaded hearing a question or a comment come your way?
No. One that springs to mind is there's a general rule that you don't ask a woman if she's going to have another child. That's the employment law implications around that sort of thing. But actually, if you ask a man, you don't know what's going on. Sometimes they can't. In my case, we'd experienced a miscarriage the same week that someone came up to me and asked me when we're having another one. That was something that I'll never forget. So sometimes people will make a judgment that it's okay to say something to a man that you wouldn't say to a woman, especially when it comes to family. I think that's quite easily resolved if there's just some better understanding of those sorts of things. But it can be quite impactful, someone asking you that sort of thing. Also, when you're back after your first 2 weeks of paternity leave, and someone asks you, how are things going with mum and the baby? I mean, when my first one, I thought it was the second. It was my first son, and I thought I was psychotic because I just couldn't bond with this thing. I didn't understand why it was there. It didn't have any emotional connection. There was this child in the house that I've got to look after and go to work. So that inability to bond over that time meant that I was pretty unwell, I think, looking back on it. Hid it from work because I didn't want them thinking, oh, maybe he is psychotic. It was going through my head at the time. There was a light switch moment where the bonding happened. Took longer than I would have hoped, but there's a lot of stuff going on in men's heads and in their lives that you probably don't realise is going on. And lots of different examples, I'm sure, but those are two that spring to mind.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily that people mean what they say, do they? Sometimes it is just the wrong thing, but as you say, it can be really impactful, really impactful.
I think similar experiences, I think, in terms of children coming along at a certain point, but in terms of people saying things in the workplace, I think it's about that sensitivity, and again, it sort of feels to me like people are more cautious and careful what they're saying when they're talking to a female colleague than when they're talking to a male colleague. And some examples of things like you sometimes are sort of the man up approach, or like you're such a man, and to sort of said something and things like that. And if you sort of flipped that and reversed it, and you're sort of saying to a woman, you're such a woman to be like that, or you've got to be more of a woman than you are now. I mean, it simply would be massively unacceptable. Whereas again, for men, it's almost sort of the expectation is you should be able to take more, so you can engage in that, or that's sometimes terms of banter and things like that. And it's always a difficult balance. I wouldn't necessarily say I dread anything in terms of comments, but there is a sort of cringe moment, and you just sort of think, really? Okay, fine. But it shouldn't be like that. It should be universal. Everyone should be treated in the same way, and everyone should be respectful of what people might have going on, regardless of gender or anything else.